Welcome in to another Gun Talk Hunt. This Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by Pyramid Air. Now, I got to sit down with good friend Will Brantley to discuss a story that happened on Reelfoot. Here's the story right now. Will Brantley is kind of, he and I are kindred spirits. Now, we've crossed each other, we're friends, but he kind of started out in the fishing industry, kind of how I did, and he's always been in the field, and he's one of those guys that craves it. Like, he craves the hunting. He craves the fishing. And he's just telling me that running trap lines, that's tough work.
Yeah, it is. From the time that I was a little kid, that's all I've wanted to do is be outside, hunting and fishing. I happen to have been a pretty good English student, and the writing part of it came naturally to me, and I like the storytelling part of it. But that, honestly, man, like, that was just a vehicle for me to make a living hunting and fishing. I went to journalism school. I had a minor in creative writing, but I never wanted to be like the next great novelist or anything like that, man. I just wanted to get a paycheck and be out hunting and fishing. It's like that to this day. Yep. It's like that to this day. And, that's, I don't know. I guess that approach has been pretty good to me in my career. I did start out on the fishing side of the business back in the day, working for FLW Outdoors as one of the editors of their magazines. I traveled to a lot of fishing tournaments, a lot of bass fishing, a lot of walleye fishing, red fishing back in those days. And I love to fish, but like it's something to do whenever hunting season's not in.
That's exactly right, and that's why we're the same, man. It's either way you go, you're hunting. I mean, let's just say fishing is hunting. But so why are we having Will Brantley on from Field and Stream? And I'll tell you why. One, absolutely phenomenal guy, phenomenal writer. He's out there doing it, but he put out a story. And it really spoke to me. It's probably one of the best pieces of work that I've seen this year, and it's an honest view of an existing problem that we have in the public hunting community, specifically duck hunters. And the title of it is "The Alleged Double Murder on Reelfoot Lake Points to a Problem Duck Hunters Must Fix." And I'm going to let you start it, Will. I'm going to kind of let you tell the story. I want you to give the background on why you wrote it first. And then just give a little, then our listeners and viewers an idea of what happened on Reelfoot.
Yeah. Well, I'll just start by saying this isn't the usual outdoor story that I like to write. I like to entertain people, and I like to inform people. And I like for hunting to be fun, and a good thing that we go to. But sometimes as a communicator too, you do have the responsibility of kind of looking at some of the bigger issues, and there are issues in hunting just like there are in anything else. And, unfortunately, I live a couple hours from Reelfoot Lake. I've lived within a couple hours of it my whole life. And it's not a place that I hunt a whole lot myself. But I do have some friends who hunt there, and, my waterfowl hunting experience is in some ways, like most of my waterfowl hunting is on Kentucky Lake. And in some ways it's a similar experience. It's a big water, a lot of permanent duck blinds. I mean, on Reelfoot Lake, virtually all of the hunting is done out of permanent duck blinds with big decoy spreads, and it's a place that's really steeped in hunting tradition. And it's probably one of the most iconic waterfowl hunting destinations in the South. Maybe in the country, and it's also long had a reputation as being a pretty tough place. Duck hunters are territorial. There's just no sugarcoating that. And I mean, we can try, but if you're a public land duck hunter, you know better. There's just a buddy of mine, put it best the other day. We were talking about this story. He said nobody hates another duck hunter more than a duck hunter during duck season. And we all get along at the at the DU and the Delta banquets, in the off season. But like during the season, especially if you're pulling up to a public boat ramp, man, there is this fierce sense of competition, and it's something that I've duck hunted under a lot of in a lot of situations and some really good private areas. I've traveled a lot to waterfowl hunt. At the end of the day, my favorite way to hunt waterfowl is freelancing public land, and especially like this Kentucky Lake area, freelancing, kind of major rivers, big water, things like that. And that's a tradition, in a lot of good waterfowl. But with that style of hunting, there's always kind of come this, this understanding that, if you're going to hunt like that, you got to be tough, because you're going to beat guys to their spot that they've been hunting for years. And a lot of times, like, confrontations happen early in the morning, and I've been there and I've seen it. I've seen fights at boat ramps. And, I guess when I was younger, I kind of chuckled at that stuff and looked at it as a badge of honor. I never saw any like real harm come of it. But I guess as I've gotten older, it's some of that stuff has started to set in. Like, hey, these are grown men out here arguing on a mud flat in the dark, and everybody's harmed.
That's exactly right, and that's one thing that I think our listeners need to understand is that, like, what happened on Reelfoot happened to two young guys, like 25 and 26. And
that's right.
Man, when you're that age, man, you feel like you're invincible. But man, there's guys who do not care. They do not care. That all that matters to them is getting their hunt in. And
that's exactly right. And of the many, conflicts that, that I've seen and heard of, that, like I say, I've never seen one really, I have known of several that escalated into a fist fight, which is, is bad enough. And I guess, like, I've got a little boy, he'll be 7 years old in June, and he's been asking me, about going duck hunting, and he's not quite big enough to go for a variety of reasons. But even before this tragedy happened at Reelfoot Lake, like, that kind of had the wheels turning. I was like, I don't know that I want my son out there on a public boat ramp, and seeing his dad get into a cuss fight with somebody over, somebody set up too close or whatever. And so that seed has been in my head for a little while. And then early last week, it was a week ago Monday, there were two young men. They were hunting with a third friend of theirs, and long and short, we don't know the circumstances of what happened, but an older man, a 70-year-old man, approached them. They were in two different permanent blinds on Reelfoot Lake, as I understand it. And the older man approached them, and some of the local news reports say there was an argument, and some of the local news reports say no, it was really a more bizarre thing than that. The old man approached him and asked to hunt with him, and then this tragedy happened. But long and short, these two young men got shot and killed. And at that point, the third man in the blind overpowered the old man, or as the story goes anyway, and got the gun away from him. The old man apparently fell into the lake or was knocked into the lake. Again, we don't really know, but the third man got the two victims back to the bank, at which point they're both dead. And, the old man was missing. His body was discovered or was recovered, I think, by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. I believe it was Saturday afternoon, not far from the duck blind. They had announced midweek last week that, that murder charges had been filed against him, and they had issued an arrest warrant. The details of all of this they're all public record. And they were highlighted in the story that I wrote. it was never my intention to sensationalize that or anything like that. But at minimum, it got me to thinking about that bigger picture of, hey, we've kind of got a duck hunting culture, a public duck hunting culture that some parts of it, maybe foster these confrontations, and some parts of it even celebrate these confrontations. And we've got to remember there are all kinds of people out there, and tragedies can happen, especially when people are out there and tempers are running high, and when people are armed. And so that all led to me sitting down and writing this story. And it's sure not the kind of piece that that you enjoy writing. And as I said, the situation is still developing down there, and you just I can't imagine what these guys, what their hunting buddies are going through, what their families are going through, the rumors and the speculation and all of that. It's just a mess, and it's a tragedy.
Yeah, I can't imagine it right now. And as you're kind of unfolding this story for our listeners and viewers, Will didn't write this to sensationalize, like he said. He brought it to bring to light what he's wanted to say and what a lot of us need to recognize with public land hunting. And, it doesn't seem like deer hunters have this problem. It doesn't seem like, antelope hunters have this problem. Elk hunters have this problem. It seems to be focused in the waterfowl crew. I mean, I don't know what it is. I'm like racking my brain sitting here going, man, what would possess someone to take the lives of two young men over a bird? And I just fail to grasp it, because I've had run-ins where, tires are slashed and just some nasty stuff. They're peppering the blind, and you're having to wake up and be at the blind at 10 o'clock the night before your hunt just so you can get your spot. Like, you do stuff like that, someone sets up. And I'm the kind of guy, and most of the people realize I'm the kind of guy who's like, oh, okay. Like, well, whatever. I know the hunt might not go anywhere, but there's guys that absolutely will come to blows over this type of thing. I don't know if you're in on the night hunting game, but you need to be. Thermal right now is more affordable than ever, and ATN is bringing you some of the best quality thermal imaging out there. Now, you can go to atncorp.com. That's atncorp.com to find your new optic. The ATN Thor 4 is honestly one of my favorites. It really is. I have this on one of my guns, and I take it night hunting anytime I go out. Now, don't miss your opportunity to get into night hunting with ATN. Get out there and own the night. But there's guys that absolutely will come to blows over this type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and again, I've seen it. I've had friends who have gotten in fist fights at boat ramps over duck blinds. I've been cussed out and traded my own share of of choice language to the guys screaming at me at 5 o'clock in the morning over a decoy spread, because we got to a spot first, and and it's public water, and it was a spot that that the guys thought that hey, they'd been hunting it all their lives, and they thought they had some ownership to it, and they'd never seen us there before, but we beat them to it. And the law says that's fair and square. You go somewhere else, but that's not the way it always works out. And you are right. I mean, it's I've waterfowl hunted all four of the flyways, including several Canadian provinces, and I've hunted a lot of other critters on public land, all over the country. A lot of public land deer hunting and a ton of public land turkey hunting but other stuff, antelope and mule deer and elk and man, like, yeah, I've run into people doing all of the above, and I've never. I don't know that I've ever had any, any kind of harsh words. I mean,
right.
I turkey hunt land between the lakes all the time. And I mean, that's as intense as turkey hunting competition gets. And you can just about bet that you're going to run into some people. And yeah, you might walk up on somebody or somebody might walk up on you and you throw your hands up, you're aggravated. But nobody charges in there to fight.
No.
Waterfowl hunting, you can almost expect it, and I think it's I think it's waterfowl are more they're more visible, and it is very I guess with turkey hunting or deer hunting you feel like, well, I can I can go down the road or over the next ridge or whatever and still have some chance for success. And with waterfowl, it is. You know how it is. Like, some blinds are hot and some aren't. You talk about being on the X, and
oh yeah,
the guys that are doing the scouting, they, if you find an X, like, there's a good chance other guys have found it too, and everybody wants to be there. Yeah. And and there's just not room for everybody. And there's the reality that I think other people know that if they move, they're probably not going to shoot birds, and everybody's gotten up early for that with that same goal in mind, and so I think that's part of it. And then, I just also I don't know, there is some kind of unspoken culture that duck hunters have to be tough guys. I don't know when that came about, and I don't really know how to define it. But again, like, if you're a public land duck hunter, it's there, so you can see it at any boat ramp on any given morning.
So how do we, as a public service announcement, you've got the floor. And thank you. I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing this with us, but how do we get over this? How do guys, it seems like it's bred into the culture of duck hunting. It seems like it's ingrained in our psyche. How do you get over it?
I wish I had that, I wish I had that magic bullet answer. I don't think it's an overnight thing. I mean, when you're talking about a cultural problem, I think as much as anything, we need to remember, like, as a hunting community, like, we talk a lot about, we got to stick together. We can't do anything that's going to put the anti-hunter spotlight on us. And sometimes that gets mistranslated a little bit, in that, like, when you bring up a touchy conversation like this, people are like, oh, we don't want to shine a spotlight on this. This just gives fuel for the anti-hunters. I disagree with that. I think when we see, when we see bullshit going on in our ranks, I hope I can say that. Like, when we see that going on in our ranks, we should call it out. Like, that's something, like, we should self-police that. And I guess over the years I have found, and I'll give you a good example. I have found that you pull up to a boat ramp early in the morning, and the other guy's there, and you're kind of scrambling, to get launched first, and you've got it in mind. You're like thinking, man, is this guy, does he know what I know? Is he going to beat me to the spot, on and on and on? And the usual protocol is you don't talk to those guys. Like, you act like they're not there, and that's not helping anything. And sometimes just something as easy as, hey guys, be safe, good luck, whatever. Like, those little common courtesies can go a long way. And it reminds me of a story from years ago from a public duck ramp. I had been out scouting a spot on Kentucky Lake, and I'd been out the evening before, and I was glassing, and I had seen just the god awfulest mass of gadwalls and teal and widgeons sitting on this mud flat, and they were all the way across the lake. And but man, it looked like there was a good spot for me to hide, and I could not find anybody to go with me the next morning. And the next morning, it dropped off cold, and we were supposed to get a big fog. And I remember my wife, Michelle, it was before we had our son. She probably wouldn't let me go now, But at the time, like, she was adamant. She did not want me going out there and getting on that big water in the dark by myself. I was like, honey, like, I found the mother lode of ducks. I'm going to hunt them by myself or not. And I got there to the ramp, and there was another boat already unloading there. And when I got there, like, my heart just sank. I'm just thinking, oh, man, this guy has already picked out these ducks, and he's going to try to beat me to it. And so I was my usual kind of standoffish self, you know, as I'm getting my stuff ready and getting my boat ready to go. And this guy walked up to me, and he was by himself, and he was as friendly as he could be. And he started asking me how long I'd been hunting there. And I told him, you know, a few years, still kind of new to the area. Told him I'd seen some ducks out on the mud flat. I was going to try to motor out to them, and he kind of understood what I was doing. And he said he was headed on down south, and come to find out, this guy was he was in the clergy somehow, and I'm not a real religious guy. But he asked me, he said, you know, do you this lake can be dangerous. He said, do you mind if we say a little prayer here before we go out? And I said, no, sir, I don't mind a bit. And so I bowed my head there next to him, and he said a prayer for us to have a good hunt and be safe. And I went out there and motored right to the spot and killed a limit of ducks within about 20 minutes after shooting light. And I've never forgotten that guy. And I couldn't pick him out. I couldn't tell you what he looked like because it was dark.
Right.
And, you know, don't know what his name, and I may have run into him since. But that moment when it was just he and I there at the ramp, and he came up to me and wanted, you know, and instead of being confrontational, he wanted to say a prayer. That always kind of stuck with me. And so I don't know, like, if you ask the question of what do we need to do as duck hunters, maybe it's more of that. Maybe it's just make it a point to be decent to one another. You know, you can still there's still nothing wrong with healthy competition.
No,
I'm totally fine with that, but we don't have to fist fight over it.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised who you meet, and you'd be surprised the information that you have that you can pass forward and that you can receive, and that's kind of my big thing too, Will, is and I was hoping you'd kind of like get there, because that's exactly what I think. I think it's a conversation that we can have. We can be open and friendly together, and man, just can't we all just get along? It just seems like that's a simple answer, but it's so hard for people to get over their pride and, you know, hold on to those secrets.
Absolutely. Well, public land hunters of all other stripes manage to do it. Like, you know, public land deer hunters. I mean, you look at the community that's been built in the hunting world here in the past, you know, few years. Around public land Western big game hunters. And I mean, like, you talk about limited opportunity, like, that's as limited as it gets. And, you know, I look at those guys, I'm like, man, like, are we gonna lock elbows and think kumbaya like everybody gets along? But it really is a cool thing, you know. They're sharing information, they're talking units and things like that. And you know, I mean, like, is public land duck hunting ever gonna become that? Probably not. But man, just making some steps toward it would help, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's the best that we can do. You know, be examples. And I ask that of all of our viewers and all of our listeners. And I know it sounds so simple, but man, just extending a greeting as a, hey, how you guys doing? Good luck this morning. I mean, it could be as simple as that, just to know, like, you know, we're all in this together, and that's about the only way you can do it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
But Will, thank you so much for coming. And if you guys have not read this story, you've got to go read it. It's on the Field and Stream website, and it is a phenomenal read, and it opens up a lot of discussion. And I hope the feedback that Field and Stream and Will Brantley is getting is positive, and it's a step in the right direction. And Will, I can't thank you enough for bringing this to light and using Field and Stream and your voice as a great sounding board.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and appreciate the opportunity, and maybe it'll do a little good. So just keep those folks at Reelfoot Lake in your thoughts and prayers.
Yep, we will do that. And next time we talk, it'll be happier times. We'll be talking how many birds you went and chased down this spring.
That sounds like a good plan.
All right, folks. Will Brantley, and thank you for watching and listening to Gun Talk Hunt. We hope you guys are safe out there, and always remember, be kind.